Okay, welcome to the second session of our discussion with the Oakland University Engineering Ethics class. Today we're going to be focusing on questions of safety for space travel and high seas in general. Our first question. The high seas simulations are primarily interested in studying the psychological effects and dangers of long space flight in a very small area with the same people the whole time. What are some of the dangers posed by these factors, and what are the greatest dangers?
I guess mainly we look at it more as a challenge than a danger, I would say. So some of the challenges are just, having only the limited amount of space and privacy, so you have to adjust to this group living, and we all have different responsibilities and schedules, so it's challenging to coordinate all of that. And that's really what they want to study is how do we cope and how do we strategize in this environment?
So what is NASA's biggest worry regarding psychological well-being of the Mars crew?
I think feelings of isolation and depression and how just like group living and how people interact with each other are what they're trying to get out of this.
I think from some of the surveys we take, the amount of variation in the interactions, daily interactions, and visual, auditory, whatever smell is.
Yeah.
Olfactory senses. I always thought that question in the survey was interesting, at least.
Yeah.
So one of the other things we're looking at here is the sort of crew cohesion factor, and that's certainly related to the psychological well-being.
Yeah. Like, I guess this is jumping the gun on the last part of the question, but what they hope to get out of this is how to properly select a crew for a long duration mission so that they can get along and stay positive and meet all the goals and stuff over the course of a 3-year mission in a small space, right? So,
I think some of the worries they have is the third quarter phenomena. We obviously aren't to the third quarter yet, so we haven't experienced it, but basically once you're more than halfway there, but still far away and have a long way to go, you can feel some sort of depression. And then once you emerge from the third quarter, then you see, oh, we're almost there, and you'll get happy again in the fourth quarter. So they're going to try to see when the third quarter happens and how we cope. And then the other thing I've heard about is that they want to make sure we work well with mission support and don't become antagonists.
Yeah, there's like a crew ground disconnect, and it's interesting to see when email's your only communication how things can change.
How the meaning of words becomes different.
Yeah.
Anything else on that one? In terms of what do we hope to see personally, maybe, or?
I don't know, like, personally, I was hoping, to get really strong friendships out of this, because I don't know, and we're still not shitty with each other yet, so, yeah.
That's what I continue.
So, I don't know.
I think I'm really interested to see what happens in the third quarter on this mission, because the previous 2 missions were only 4 months, and you could pretty much put up with anybody for 4 months, I think, and each quarter was only a month, and
it's not that long.
It's really not that long. So I think when you have a 4-month mission, you're always in that, well, we're almost there, only this far to go. So on an 8-month mission where you have a lot longer, when we're halfway, we still have 4 more months to go. So I think having that extra time is really going to make that kind of longing, and it'll make the boredom and the monotony even worse. Whereas if we were just getting out in a couple months, then, no biggie, I'll put up with it. But when it's a real part of your life for a long time, then I think it's going to be really interesting to see that. So that's what I'm excited about for this mission.
I think earlier, maybe before the mission, I would have said that I would have been worried about being bored in the dome, there's just nothing to do. I can honestly say I've never once been bored here. like not for a single hour. I mean, it's just, there's always something to do. Either, I mean, I'm writing my thesis stuff, or
yeah, it might
whatever.
change after you finish your thesis.
God, I could do it for boredom in my life.
Yeah, read a book.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not worried about boredom or monotony. I feel like it doesn't get very monotonous in here, really.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. It's, in fact, in some cases, there's, maybe too much stuff to do sometimes.
Yeah.
How can you get bored? There's so many activities, so many studies that we have to participate in. Sometimes I don't have enough time to work on my personal project too. So, there's a time management effect that you have to take control of. So boredom, no, I don't think that's going to happen, especially with this group.
Yeah. Easily entertained.
Why is everybody looking at me?
A hat person.
Yeah, I don't know, take off that hat.
Nope.
What type of person do you think would be perfect for the voyage to Mars? Are there any special characteristics needed in order to endure the psychological challenges that one might face?
People who are easily amused. Yeah, people who are pretty proactive. Again, like autonomous, because communication is going to be an issue. And also people without very strong personality quirks or that need a lot of emotional support. I don't know.
Detail-oriented, good at problem solving.
Yep.
But really, yeah, easygoing and easily amused are probably
High up.
if we're talking about the psychology aspect of it and making it.
Yeah, like there are a lot of detail-oriented and good problem solver people out there, but they also need to be easygoing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Need to be physically healthy and like working out, because you'll have to maintain your health for 2 years in a small vessel. So
Yeah.
it's definitely important.
Considerate, I would say, is a pretty big one. Not just doing things because people tell you they're irritating them, but kind of realizing before they get irritated that this might not be the best behavior there.
Yeah. Socially aware.
Yeah.
And I guess another important factor is, don't sweat the small stuff. If you get bogged down by small little problems or issues, then when the big one comes, you might not even hold it together. You can break down. So you have to be a person that can get their hands dirty if they need to, or help someone else out, even if it's not your turn to do so. Things like that. So just don't get bogged down with details.
Or sort of the constant barrage of small problems that we have might just become overwhelming if that was something that was really troubling.
Gotta be able to kind of
You
let
have to
that
be
go.
resilient. Yes.
Not hold on to that stuff.
Some people may say that the value of this mission is questionable, but do you believe isolation is a more significant problem in the current times than it was before, and that it must be prepared for? In this new age of technology, more and more people can connect, so that even if someone is alone, he or she is perhaps texting on a phone, or sending an email, or constantly communicating somehow. Thus, do you think being used to always having communication at our fingertips makes the idea of isolation much harder and much more of a serious issue, or do you believe that nothing has changed?
Okay. So I was thinking, I actually think that people have more of an issue with isolation now than they did in the past because of all the technology at our fingertips. Like you can also like be constantly talking or texting or interacting online with someone all the time through your phone. But then you're not interacting with the people who are actually physically around you as much anymore. So I think, like, I never feel isolated here because I'm always with, this group of 5 other people. And I can still write back to my family via email. So I still get the news and stuff. But, so I think isolation in society may be actually more than it is, but maybe people deal with it differently now, I think. So I think, Is there more comments on that?
I mean, I certainly miss some of the social medias, like Instagram. We don't have. It's one that I really like, looking at all the photos. But in general, I think, like Martha said, we don't feel alone because remember alone, which is
Yeah.
actually more of the problem.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of privacy or personal time, and we have so much going on. So we're isolated, but we're also like kind of congested. Like we're super intertwined. Our daily lives are not separate at all. So yeah, we are not bombarded with social media all the time, but we are like in touch with different other types of life and communication.
I was actually really happy to come in here and kind of get away from Facebook and my phone and kind of all of that stuff where you know exactly when somebody's eating a hamburger or a salad or whatever. And I mean, personally, that type of communication I don't really categorize as the same as like talking to my mom in an email or getting a video from my friends back home. So I think it's kind of different the way that you categorize those type of interactions. And similarly, talking with the crew and having a meal together or talking about whatever project you happen to be doing, that's a whole nother category of communication. And so I feel like we have a really good supply of worthwhile communication between emails with family and friends and personal interactions among crew members that, isolation, again, we're isolated from the world, but I don't feel isolated very much.
Yeah, I mean, I think I generally agree that I probably send more emails to my friends and family than I did before. I mean, maybe I don't talk to them on the phone or send text messages or whatever now, but I think that I still talk to them and I still feel connected with them.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think this whole study is about that. They're trying to create as best to realism as possible the conditions of what it would be like to be on Mars. And being on Mars, we'll still be able to email our families and friends. It'll be on a delay, just like it is here. And we're not going to be there all by ourselves alone. So we're not going to be really isolated. So in a sense, I think the study succeeded in that respect, that we're not really isolated. It's just impossible in this little building with 6 people to be isolated.
All right, our next question. Did a personal interest in the cause for this type of study lead you to agree to something with risks to the well-being of yourself or others that are higher than what you might normally take?
I guess for me, I took a big risk in leaving my PhD project that I was working on, so I normally would not do that just for anything, but I really wanted to participate in this experience, and I made the right decision. I've got another project going now, and it's all going to work out, so
Yes, it will.
I also quit a job, and I'm not sure what's going to happen when I come out, but it was the right choice for me as well.
Yeah, I think the psychological risks maybe towards doing this, or the uncertainty in your life surrounding this project is the bigger issue than health-wise or I guess danger risk-wise. Because I don't physically, I think this is actually a safer project than what I would be doing in everyday life. It's safer than driving a car. You're not driving a car anymore, or I bike everywhere, so I'm not going to get hit by a car biking around everywhere. Yeah, but I think people in general are afraid of change. So I think just make the decision to drop whatever you were doing in the rest of your life and come here to do this was, I think, a big step for a lot of people. It's usually worth it. So, yeah.
I think physically the most dangerous thing we do is we go out on EVAs and we're wearing, which is extravehicular activity, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah.
So basically that's when we go outside and we walk around. We do different tasks outside. We have a geologist who feeds us little assignments, and so we go and collect samples or measure things outside. And all the while we're wearing some pretty big suits. And if you've ever tried hiking around on lava while wearing a 15-pound suit that's got extra baggy legs, it can snag. It's a little bit difficult, and that would probably be the most dangerous thing. I went ahead and kind of got that out of the way early on. I wore one of our suits that wasn't fully ready to be worn around yet, and had a pretty big moment of panic and claustrophobia in there. actually at the very beginning of the mission when we went out. So I kind of dealt with that and then got on with the rest of the mission and went around until we were done doing our part and came back in. But that would be, I mean, I probably wouldn't have done that under different circumstances. I did that because we happened to have a cool suit that looked just like a real astronaut suit. And I was super excited that it fit me, and I wanted to be the first person out in it, so that was dumb, but but there you go.
Somebody want to talk about diet and other unique health risks here?
Medical officer.
Oh, okay. Well, so along the lines of, physical things that are happening to us here, we're eating a diet of all dehydrated and freeze-dried foods, no fresh vegetables or anything like that. So, we're definitely vitamin and mineral deficient. So, and we're not receiving any direct sunlight, so we're going to have low vitamin D. So taking a multivitamin is definitely something that we need to do, although we probably don't do it as much as we should. But it's definitely necessary. But it's probably about the extent of our health risks here. I mean, we're not like eating any nasty germs or anything. So
we have composting toilets, which I don't know. I think they're fine. They're just a little gross to take care of sometimes.
As long as we don't scoop stuff out and then wipe our mouth or something. I mean, I think we're gonna be fine.
Yeah. So yeah.
And we're working out all the time, so being in the confined space, we're still exercising, and I think all of us are getting in better shape than we were when we arrived. So
yeah.
The psychological phenomenon called groupthink occurs when a group makes bad decisions because of the desire for conformity within the group. A group in which the members have similar backgrounds is especially vulnerable to groupthink. So my question is, what, if any, precautions does the crew have in order to circumvent groupthink, which could potentially be disastrous to the mission and the well-being of the members?
There is no groupthink.
I think the main way to combat groupthink is just to understand that it is a phenomenon, and the way to make sure that you overcome it is to make sure you communicate what's on your mind. Like if you really think that some plan has a flaw, let's speak your mind, and to go along with that, you have to be comfortable in your team that that when you do speak your mind, then it will be received in a positive manner. And this group, we all take everybody's opinions and thoughts really openly. We're all really open-minded, so I don't necessarily think we're taking any precautions to combat it specifically. We're just pretty open with communication, and we're respectful of each other's opinions. So, we're rocking and rolling.
We do a weekly debrief, it focuses on our communication and leadership and followership and stuff like that. So we can reflect over the course of the week, because I think groupthink happens when emotions get involved as well, and people you have an emotional response as a group, and you start thinking that way as a group. And if you take the time to remove yourself and reflect back on how the week has gone and how the month has gone, then you can see if there are issues that aren't being addressed.
I guess another component is we have the mission support, so we're not completely on our own. So if we do get in a dangerous situation because of some kind of groupthink, they probably will rein us in.
Yeah, they definitely second guess us. So so at least gets another perspective in on things, whether or not they're right or not. But, yeah.
disconnect? What?
This mission support people also sort of are looking over our shoulder with when we want to do any sort of engineering systems changes. So they know the power system and the water system and all that kind of stuff better than we do. So it's not like if the crew decides that this is a good idea, we just go ahead and do it. They're there sort of to back us up and make sure we're doing all that stuff the right way. Sort of similar with EVAs. They're checking our plans before we go out and do an EVA.
I think we are kind of vulnerable to groupthink a little bit, mostly on our EVAs, because we have a task that we have to complete, and everybody wants to complete the task, and so I think some things might get passed over in the planning stages because we would just want to get out there and do the task, and then.
Yeah, there's definitely been a few times where I felt like we should have done something differently, particularly with communications.
With the radios, we're like, oh, they're good enough, let's go, and we get out there and we can't hear each other.
I probably should have insisted on using like old ones or something that we knew worked instead of new ones that were flaky and stuff like that. But it's not been on a very serious issue.
Yeah, but Camo's not an issue anymore, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Given the danger involved in space travel, do you think we will always have reasons for sending humans to Mars, or space generally, as opposed to just using robots?
Yes.
Yes.
Here's the thing about robots versus humans. When you build a robot to go out into space, you have to start the planning stages like years in advance before it even hits where you're going to send it. So you're designing something to perform a specific task 3 years before it's going to perform that task. So then by the time it actually gets up there, that it may be obsolete, or you maybe do that task and then you want it to do something else, or it runs into a problem, and then you have to troubleshoot, and well, there's no human up there to troubleshoot, so you have to do it from the ground. So the real difference between humans and rovers is with a human you get the instant computing power and problem solving right away, and you can alter your course and you can alter your game plan, and all that stuff can be done on the fly because you have a human being there, and that's like the main difference, I think.
Yeah, and I think just like any other tool, depending on who's wielding the robot, it can have a lot more range as its function. So instead of just being, you bring a robot up there and it digs a soil sample, and okay, there's nothing we really want around here, but that robot can't really move very much. If you were to have an operator there with it, it could fix it, make it different so that it can go and do another task, bring it to a whole nother area and set it up there, and basically it drastically improves the lifespan and the functionality of the robot, having a person there to be able to take care of it, to be able to change it, and again, just to be able to keep it around as a tool.
Even just the time delay factor is huge. I mean, one of the proposed Mars missions is just to send people to Phobos and have a base on Phobos, and you could control a rover on the surface and have near real-time control of it, rather than having to send it 20 minutes back and forth to Earth all the time.
So one of the other main advantages of space development is the technology and tools that we develop for exploring space also translate into different spin-offs that we can use for our daily lives on Earth. So if you take out the human spaceflight element, then we won't have any of the kind of medical advances that we have already seen come out of the space program. So if you only focus on robotics, then you're only going to get spin-offs in that technology realm, but not in the medical realm. So.
Also like food or regenerative life support, or like anything related to anything biological.
Yeah, like I think people are always like, oh, should we be sending people to colonize Mars? I think it's a little bit silly to be thinking about colonizing Mars at this point, because you need, like, there you have to be completely sustainable. And we haven't even figured that out on Earth yet. Like, Earth is recycling our air and our water for us, whereas we have to do that all through 4 systems there. But to flip that on its head, like if we were to go and figure all of that stuff on Mars, it would have huge implications on how we can live with zero impact here on Earth. Like there would be huge positive impacts. So I think just like that human component of Mars exploration is huge for implications back on Earth.
So I believe this is definitely not a group thing, but every person on this crew believes that human exploration of Mars is very valuable, very important, versus just sending robots. And we all have our own personal reasons for it. So we stand by what we said.
If this mission to Mars were to actually happen in the future, would it be morally permissible to have a select group of individuals put their lives at risk for the good and well-being of the entire society to see if Mars will ever be a livable environment?
I think what we kind of ended up going with on this question is that if someone chooses to do something, then it's not really about whether or not it's moral, because it's a personal choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I, for example, would absolutely choose to go and try and colonize, terraform, whatever Mars. And I don't think that has any moral impact on whether or not I'm doing it for the good of mankind or to help create a more sustainable living space, or even just because I want to put a freaking flag on Mars. It's purely about, I think it's right to go, and I'm willing to sacrifice my life on Earth to do it.
Yeah, like I think this is almost like more of a meaning of life question, what you choose to do with your life. Because there are people here on Earth who risk their lives every day to fight oppression and to fight for, like clean water or freedom of expression. And if they choose to go and take that photo and post it and they end up in jail or losing their lives for that, that's the similar, I don't know, like we're all mortal, we'll all die someday, and what you choose to do with your life to give it meaning, it's different for every person, and certainly for some people that being part of a mission to Mars is well worth their lives.
Yeah, they already took applications for a one-way trip to Mars in the future, and they just had so many applicants. I mean, there's just a list of people that would give up everything on Earth to go to Mars. There's no shortage of people that would do that. So, I think the question of morality doesn't even enter the picture. It's just, it's just a personal choice.
Mm-hmm. Like if people were forced into it, I think you were saying earlier, that's a totally different question, but I don't think anyone would be forced, anyone who's going is not being forced into it.
And you wouldn't want to send anyone who didn't want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And they would know about all the risks, and they would know what technology we have, and so as long as up front they know all of the risks and know what they're probably going to run into.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it comes down to personal choice. And even if given the risks and even given all the accurate information about the dangers and probability of even staying alive, a person still chooses to go, then again, that's his or her personal choice.
Even if there was a situation where, like, the world is ending because there's too much carbon dioxide and the only way we can survive as a species is to just the off chance that we send a few people up to Mars and they maybe, keep the human race going or something like that, I think you would still find a long list of people that would volunteer to do that, even if everything wasn't set up and it was just a chance that that things would continue for the human race. There would still be lots of volunteers for that, so I don't think we really have to worry about that being morally wrong.
In fact, I would venture to say that some of you in the class would volunteer to go as well.
Let's see hands.
Yeah, what we got?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that's just in our nature, is that sort of risk-taking
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
thing.
exploration.
I mean, we wouldn't have gotten to where we are now if that wasn't part of us.
Mm-hmm.
The psychological phenomenon called groupthink occurs when a group makes bad decisions because of the desire for conformity within the group. A group in which the members have similar backgrounds is especially vulnerable to groupthink. So my question is, what, if any, precautions... The psychological phenomenon called groupthink occurs when a group makes bad decisions because of the desire.
What is going on?
Okay, stop.
The psychological phenomenon called groupthink occurs when a group makes bad decisions because of the desire for conformity within the group. A group in which the members have similar backgrounds is especially vulnerable to groupthink. So my question is, what, if any, precautions does the crew have in order to The psychological phenomenon called groupthink occurs when a group makes bad decisions because of the desire for conformity within the group. A group in which the members have similar backgrounds is especially vulnerable to groupthink. So my question is, what, if any, precautions does the crew have in order to circumvent groupthink, which could potentially be disastrous to the mission and the well-being of the members?
There is no groupthink.
Guys!
So
I'm
big.
doing crime numbers in my head. I'm trying so hard.